At that time, the world-honored one, desiring to proclaim this teaching over again, spoke thus in verse. Bhikshus and bhikshunis, obsessed by utmost arrogance, upasakas filled with self-conceit, upasikas with unbelief, four groups such as these, 5,000 in number, perceiving not their errors and faults in the commandments, careful only of their flaws, such small wit they showed, these dregs of the assembly, who, because of the Buddha's splendid virtue, withdrew. These men of little virtuous happiness are incapable of receiving the law. Now this assembly has no twigs and leaves, but only those who are true and real. Sariputra, listen carefully to the laws obtained by the Buddhas, which, by infinite tactful powers, they expound for all creatures. What they all entertain in their minds, all the ways they practice, how many kinds are their desires, and their former karmas, good and evil, the Buddha knows all these perfectly. With various reasonings and parables, terms and tactful powers, he causes them all to rejoice, preaching either sutras, or gathas, or former things, or birth stories, or the unprecedented, and also preaching by reasonings, by parables and gayas, and by upadisa scriptures. The dull, who delight in petty rules, who are greedily attached to existence, who, under innumerable Buddhas, do not walk the profound and mystic way, who are harassed by all the sufferings, because of these I preach nirvana. I have set up such tactful ways to enable them to enter the Buddha wisdom. But I have never said, you all shall accomplish the Buddha way. The reason why I have never so said is that the time for saying it had not arrived. But now is the very time, and I have resolved to preach the great vehicle. These 9 divisions of my law, preached according to the capacity of all creatures, are but the introduction to the great vehicle. Hence, I preach this sutra. There are sons of the Buddha whose minds are pure, who are gentle and clever-natured, and who, in innumerable Buddha regions, have walked the profound and mystic way. On behalf of these sons of the Buddha, I preach this great vehicle sutra. And I predict that such men as these, in the world to come, will accomplish the Buddha way. Through their deep-hearted mindfulness of the Buddha and observance of the pure commandments, these, hearing that they may become Buddhas, are filled throughout with great joy. The Buddha knows their mind and conduct, and therefore preaches to them the great vehicle. If Sravakas or Bodhisattvas hear the law which I preach, even be it but one verse, all, without doubt, become Buddhas. In the Buddha lands of the universe, there is only the one vehicle law, never a second nor a third, except the tactful teachings of the Buddha. But by provisional expressions, he has led all living creatures, revealing the Buddha wisdom. In the appearing of the Buddhas in the world, only this one is the real fact, for the other 2 are not the true. They never by a smaller vehicle save all creatures. The Buddha himself abides in the great vehicle, in accordance with the law he has attained, enriched with powers of meditation and wisdom, and by it he saves all creatures. I, proving the supreme way, the great vehicle, the universal law, if I convert by a smaller vehicle even but one human being, I shall fall into grudging, a thing that cannot be. If men and women turn in faith to the Buddha, the Tathagata will not deceive them, for he has no covetous and envious desires, and is free from all the sins of the laws. So the Buddha in the universe is the one being perfectly fearless. I, by my signs adorned body, with their shining illuminate the world, and am worshipped by countless multitudes, for whom I preach the seal of reality. Know, Sariputra, of yore I made a vow, wishing to cause all creatures to rank equally without difference with me. According to the vow I made of old, now all has been perfectly fulfilled, for converting all living beings and leading them to enter the Buddha way. Whenever I meet any creatures, I teach them all by the Buddha way. But the unwitting remain confused, and, going astray, never accept my teaching. I know that all these creatures have never practiced the fundamental goodness, are firmly attached to the 5 desires, and through infatuation are in distress. By reason of these desires, they have fallen into the 3 evil paths. Transmigrating in the 6 states of existence, they suffer the utmost misery. Received into the womb in minute form, life after life, they ever increase and grow, poor in virtue and of little happiness. They are oppressed by all the distresses. They have entered the thickets of heretical views, such as existence or non-existence. Relying on these false views, altogether 62, they are deeply attached to these false laws, firmly holding, unable to give them up, self-sufficient and self-inflated, suspicious, crooked, and faithless in mind. During thousands and milliards of kalpas, they have not heard the name of a Buddha, nor have they heard the true law. Men such as these can hardly be saved. For this reason, Sariputra, I set up a tactful way for them, proclaiming the way to end sufferings and revealing it through nirvana. Though I proclaim nirvana, yet it is not real extinction. All existence from the beginning is ever of the nirvana nature. When a son or daughter of the Buddha has fulfilled his or her course in a world to come, he or she becomes a Buddha. Only by my powers of tactfulness do I manifest the 3-vehicle law. For all the world-honored ones expound the 1-vehicle way. Now let all in this great assembly be free from doubts and perplexities. The Buddhas do not differ in their statements. There is one only and no second vehicle. In the past countless kalpas, innumerable extinct Buddhas, in hundreds, thousands, and milliards, whose numbers cannot be counted, all such world-honored ones as these, with various reasonings and parables and innumerable tactful powers, have proclaimed the various laws. But all these world-honored ones proclaim the 1-vehicle law, converting numberless creatures to enter the Buddha way. Moreover, the great holy masters, knowing that which all the worlds of gods, men, and other creatures deeply desire in their hearts, in addition, by varying tactfulness, assist in revealing the first principles. If there are any beings who have met the former Buddhas, if, having heard the law, they have given donations, if they have kept the commandments and have been persevering, been assiduous, meditative, and wise, having kept these various ways of happiness and virtue, such beings as these have all attained the Buddha way. After the extinction of Buddhas, men and women with good and soft minds for the truth, such living beings as these have all attained the Buddha way. After the extinction of Buddhas, those who worshipped their relics and built many kotis of sorts of stupas with gold, silver, and crystal, with moonstone and agate, with jasper and lapis lazuli, clearly and broadly decorated, handsomely displayed on every stupa, or those who built stone shrines of sandalwood and aloes, eagle wood and other woods, of brick, tiles, and clay, or those who, in the wilds, raised earth for Buddha's shrines, even children in their play, who gathered sand for a Buddha stupa. All such beings as these have attained the Buddha way. If men and women for the sake of Buddhas have created images carved with the characteristic signs, they have all attained the Buddha way. Or those who, with the precious seven, with brass, red and white copper, with wax, lead and tin, with iron, wood and clay, or with glue and lacquer, have adorned and made Buddha's images. All such ones as these have attained the Buddha way. Those who have painted Buddha's images with the 100 blessing-adorned signs, whether done by themselves or by employing others, have all attained the Buddha way. Even boys and girls in their play, who, with reed, wood, or pen, or with the fingernail, have drawn Buddha's images, all such ones as these gradually accumulate merit and, perfecting great hearts of pity, have attained the Buddha way. Indeed, by influencing the bodhisattvas, have saved countless creatures. If men and women to the stupas and shrines, to the precious images and paintings, with flowers, incense, flags, and umbrellas, have paid homage with respectful hearts, or employed others to perform music, beat drums, blow horns and conchs, panpipes and flutes, play lutes, harps, guitars, gongs, and cymbals. Such mystic sounds as these, all played by way of homage, or with joyful hearts by singing have extolled the merits of Buddhas, even though in but a low voice. These too have attained the Buddha way. Even anyone who, with distracted mind, with but a single flower, has paid homage to the painted images, shall gradually see countless Buddhas. Or those who have offered worship, were it merely by folding the hands, or even raising a hand, or by slightly bending the head, by thus paying homage to the images, gradually see innumerable Buddhas and attain the supreme way, extensively saving countless creatures, and enter the formless nirvana, as when firewood is finished, the fire dies out. If any, even with distracted mind, enters a stupa or temple and cry but once, Nama Buddha, they have attained the Buddha way. If any from the Buddhas of the past, whether in existence or already extinct, have heard this law, they have all attained the Buddha way. All the future honored ones, infinite in their number, all these Tathagatas, also by tactful ways, preach the law. All of the Tathagatas, by infinite tactful ways, save all living creatures to enter the Buddha's faultless wisdom. Of those who hear the law, not one fails to become a Buddha. This is the original vow of the Buddhas, By the Buddha way which I walk, I desire universally to cause all creatures to attain the same way along with me. Close quote. Though the Buddhas in future ages proclaim hundreds, thousands, kotis, countless schools of doctrine, in reality they are all but the one vehicle. The Buddhas, the honored ones, know that nothing has an independent existence, and that Buddha seeds spring from a cause, so they reveal the one vehicle. All things abide in their fixed order. Hence, the world abides forever. Having apprehended this on the wisdom throne, the leaders proclaim it in tactful ways. Whom gods and men pay homage to, the present Buddhas in the universe, whose number is as the sands of the Ganges, and who appear in the world for the relief of all creatures, these also proclaim such a law as this. Knowing the supreme nirvana, though by reason of their tactful powers they display various kinds of ways, really they are but the one Buddha vehicle. Knowing the conduct of all creatures, what they entertain in their deepest minds, the karma they have developed in the past, their inclinations and zeal, and their capacities, keen or dull, with various kinds of reasonings, parables, and narrations, as they could respond, so have they tactfully taught. Now, in like manner, for the relief of all creatures, I also, by various kinds of doctrine, promulgate the Buddha way. I, by my power of wisdom, knowing the natures and inclinations of creatures, tactfully proclaim the laws which cause all to obtain gladness. Know, Sariputra, I, observing with the Buddha's eyes, see the creatures in the 6 states of existence, poor and without happiness and wisdom, in the dangerous path of mortality, in continuous unending misery, firmly fettered by the 5 desires, like the yak caring for its tail, smothered by greed and infatuation, blinded and seeing nothing. They seek not the Buddha, the mighty, and the law to end sufferings, but deeply fall into heresies, and seek by suffering to be rid of suffering. For the sake of all these creatures, my heart is stirred with great pity. When I first sat on the wisdom throne, looking at that tree and walking about it during thrice 7 days, I pondered such matters as these, quote, the wisdom which I have obtained is wonderful and supreme, but all creatures are dull in their capacities, pleasure attached, and blind with ignorance. Such classes of beings as these, I saw, how can they be saved? Thereupon, the Brahma kings and Lord Sakra of the gods, the 4 heavenly beings who protect the worlds, also the God of great sovereign and all the other heavenly beings, with hundreds of thousands of myriads of followers, respectfully saluted with folded hands, entreating me to roll the wheel of the great law. Then I pondered within myself, quote, if I only extol the Buddha vehicle, all creatures, being sunk in suffering, will not be able to believe this law, and by breaking the law through unbelief, will fall into the 3 evil paths. I had rather not preach the law, but instantly enter nirvana. Then, on remembering what former Buddhas performed by their tactful powers, I thought, the way which I have now attained, I must preach as the tripartite vehicle. While I was pondering thus, all the Buddhas in the universe appeared, and with sacred voice cheered me in response. Excellent Sakyamuni, the first of leaders. Having attained this supreme law, thou art following after all the Buddhas in using tactful powers. We too have all attained this most wonderful supreme law, but for the sake of the many kinds of creatures, we divide and preach it in 3 vehicles. Those of little wisdom delight in petty laws, not believing that they can become Buddhas. Hence we, by tactful ways, divide and preach the natural results. Though we also proclaim the 3 vehicles, it is only for teaching the bodhisattvas. Know, Sariputra, hearing the voices of the holy lions, profoundly clear and mystic, I saluted them, Nama Buddhas, and again reflected thus, having come forth into the disturbed and evil world, I, according to the Buddha's behest, will also obediently proceed. Having finished pondering this matter, I instantly went to Varanasi. The nirvana nature of all existence, which is inexpressible, I, by my tactful ability, preached to the 5 bhikshus. This is called the first rolling of the law wheel. Whereupon there was the news of nirvana, and also the separate names of arhat, of law, and of sangha. From distant kalpas onward, I have extolled and indicated the law of nirvana for the perpetual end of mortal distress. Thus have I continuously spoken. Know, Sariputra, when I saw the Buddha sons and Buddha daughters bent on seeking the Buddha way, in countless thousands and myriads of kotis, all with reverent hearts draw near to me, the Buddha. They had already heard from the Buddhas the law which they tactfully explained. Then I conceived this thought. The reason why the Tathagata appears is for preaching the Buddha wisdom. Now is the very time. No, Sariputra, the stupid and those of little wit, the tied to externals and the proud, cannot believe this law. But now I am glad and fearless. In the midst of the bodhisattvas, frankly put aside tactfulness, and only proclaim the supreme way. You bodhisattvas hearing this law, having got rid of all the net of doubts, you 1,200 arhats will all become Buddhas. In the same fashion that the Buddhas, past, present, and future, preach the law, so also will I now proclaim the undivided law. The appearing of Buddhas in the world is far apart and a rare occurrence. And when they do appear in the world, with equal rareness do they proclaim this law. Even in infinite countless kalpas, rarely may this law be heard. And those who are able to listen to this law, men and women such as these, are also rare. It is like the Unabridged flower, which all love and enjoy, seldom seen by gods and men, appearing but once in long periods. So he who, hearing this law, extols it joyfully and utters but one single word of it, has already paid homage to all the Buddhas in the three worlds. Such a one is exceedingly rare, rarer than the Unabridged flower. Be you free from doubts. I am the king of the law, and declare to all the assembly, quote, I, only by the one vehicle way, teach the bodhisattvas, and have no Sravaka disciples. Know, all of you Sariputra, Sravakas and bodhisattvas, that this wonderful law is the mystery of all the Buddhas, because the evil world of the 5 decadences only delights in sensual attachments. Its creatures such as these never seek the Buddha way. The wicked in generations to come, who hear the one vehicle preached by the Buddha, in their delusion and unbelief will break the law and fall into evil ways. But there are beings, modest and pure, devoted to seeking the Buddha way. For such as these, I must widely extol the one vehicle way. Know, Sariputra, the law of Buddhas is thus, by myriads of kotis of tactful ways, they proclaim the law as opportunity serves, but those who will not learn are not able to discern it. But you already know the expedient ways of the Buddhas, the leaders of the world. Have no further doubts. Rejoice greatly in your hearts, knowing that you will become Buddhas.